Music is a trinity of life. The power of the Father is established by the rhythm. The melody becomes the intelligence of the Son, and the harmony, the embellishment, becomes the Holy Spirit. Music, then, is a power that can be used for good or for evil, and it is a controlling factor of civilization and its trends. Aristotle said the introduction of a new kind of music should be shunned as imperiling the whole state, since styles of music are never disturbed without affecting the most important political institutions. It has been said, it doesn't matter who writes the laws, as long as the one who controls is able to write the music of a nation. The Greeks legislated strongly to preserve the purity of their music. Composers were fined and even exiled from the state if their musical compositions were considered detrimental to the public good. Culture founded on a classical beauty and strength began to decline into a sensual state through the music which began to become weak and effeminate. Gradually, the mere virtuosi replaced the true artist, and the character of the Greeks declined, their morals weakened, and they lost their love of freedom and patriotism. All of this through the change of the sound. Since sound is creation, then we are perpetually being created and recreated, preserved or destroyed by the use we make of the trinity of life in music. The perfect sound, the rhythm, and the tempo of the heart is found in the waltz. The home of the waltz is in Vienna, and this particular focal point in Vienna is the place of the descent of the Venusians and their culture, who brought this sound of the mother, as the waltz is considered to be the mother of all dance. The 3/4 time is the time of the heartbeat of God. The waltz appeared in Vienna in 1776, the burst of the flame of the heart, corresponding with the freedom which we experienced in this country. Schubert brought this music to its high point in the 1800s, and all of Vienna was captured by the music of the waltz kings Schubert, Laennec, and the Strausses. In the action of the waltz, there is the balance of the Tai Chi, the accent of the flow of energy in the 4 lower bodies. It is the flame and the fire of Saint Germain. It is the actual rhythm of transmutation. It creates an upward spiral of light. It is a rising violet flame spiral that actually carves a pathway of light through the subconscious, through the layers of misqualified energy that are in the electronic belt. It paves the way for the raising of the ascension coil in the soul's liberation. It is an acceptable form of dance. In fact, it is a ritual of the sacred fire within the temple. The spiraling upward of the chakras from the base to the crown. All of this comes forth out of the heart. By and by, then, jazz began to pervert the waltz beat. Jazz is the perversion of the crown chakra, taking the wisdom of the Father. It has a complete absence of discipline and therefore provides no cup for illumination. It has the jagged patterns which cause the descent of energy from the crown to the lower chakras. Jazz is responsible for the overemphasis of the sexual nature. The orgiastic element of its syncopated rhythm produces a hyper-excitement of the nerves and loosens the power of self-control. It forces all of the energies of the temple and of the spinal altar in a downward pattern, in a jagged rhythm, so that when these energies become concentrated in the lower chakras, they must be released in some form of sensual pleasure, of destructivity, including murder and mayhem. The harsh ear-splitting percussions were brutalizing and reverted man to the primitive nature of his raw instinct. The unchanneled energies before the path of initiation shatters the matrices of energy. We find then that without the path of initiation, this energy becomes totally destructive and totally chaotic. The hypnotic effect upon the dancers and the spectators is the entire point of jazz. It becomes a ceremonial music, and it affects the rate of the heartbeat. It has a subtle but insistent influence upon both the mind and the emotions. It renders the individual out of contact with reality because he has literally lost the mind of God. Researchers have found that jazz has little or no therapeutic value. All compositions featuring broken rhythms, dissonance, and an exaggerated tempo are stimulants and irritants. They drain the chakras by jazz and then must produce an additional stimulant in order to have an alternative energy source. Now, on first contact with this music, it is violent to the soul. But as it becomes a part of our culture that is not the real culture of the mother, we become accustomed to it. And as with all addictions, whether they are of alcohol, nicotine, drugs, or sugar, or whatever, it becomes something which we want more and more and more of because it keeps on taking and taking and taking from us. This energy robs you of energy. It releases the energy of the chakras so that you have to keep hearing it in order to have the additional stimulus. And this explains the fact that today jazz or rock music has to be the background of life in America. Wherever you go, there are people who cannot live without that background music. It is literally an addiction to the anti-rhythm of the mother. So the appreciation for the original sounds and music is dulled as our senses become broken by the harsh rhythms and the jagged force field that we have through jazz. At the level of the throat chakra, we find the coming of rock and roll. It marked a revolution that had been simmering for years. In 1955, the rebellion externalized when James Dean appeared as the sensitive anti-hero in Rebel Without a Cause. The turning point came dramatically with the film Blackboard Jungle. It introduced the complete perversion of the science of the mother, the color and the sound of the mother in the song Rock Around the Clock. Now, as we all know, the stimulation of this sound is extremely effective and attractive. It lies in the fact that as soon as you begin to hear the music and the beat, instantly energy is released from your chakras. It is forced. It is catapulted out of the chakras, producing immediate physical sensation of a sexual nature, which vibrates and quivers along the whole body temple. The release of this energy, then, becomes the catapulting of the mother force into complete sex energy and a sex culture, and this is what we have seen coming out of that seemingly harmless sound, which has now become the complete debasing of life that has reduced us to this level of child pornography, the misuse of the Holy Child. We find that these degradations always begin seemingly harmlessly, but that they are never harmless. In order to be able to refrain from moving with this energy and this sound, one must have the determined understanding of the discipline of the raising of the energies of the chakras. This is not easy when we are in the midst of the mainstream of our culture today, which is the perverted culture of the mother. We find then that since we are not God-taught, we do not understand the disciplines, we do not realize that it is the life force which is being taken from us, that it is easy to go along with this because just as with the coming of the blues, it's a lazy way out. It is the instantaneous sex thrill by the use of the drum, the rhythm, to force the turning of the chakras for the downward spiral culminating in sex. The film Blackboard Jungle made heroes of delinquents in rebellion against authority perversion of the throat chakra. As you know, Bill Haley and the Comets soared to the top 10 with Rock Around the Clock, and at last the youth had a music uniquely their own. Its roots easily traced to the rhythm of the voodoo, now adapted by the black and the white races alike around the world. Elvis Presley epitomized rock and roll and blatantly introduced overt, aggressive sex to his audiences. He snarled lyrics like, "I was born standing up and talking back, I'm evil." He was written up recently as the king of satanic sneer. For him, it was easier to release his energy in this way than to release it as the discipline of energy for the soul liberation and the soul reunion. He was rock's first superstar, sex symbol, and rebel. Following Elvis, the folk rock singers were next in line. This period of the early 60s marked the protest songs and strong fight for civil rights with blacks and hip whites shared. Now this movement, again, is at the level of the throat chakra. It is the moving in of the fallen ones to seize that energy of the chakra, turn it into sensuality, deprive the children of light of the great victory of the science of the word. What was motivating this culture shock in America? Within a decade, rock and roll, rebellion, sexual liberty, protest, and dope became the marks of a hip lifestyle. It began in the music. Without the music, that could have never taken place. Without the music, the drug culture could not have happened. Without the music, there could not have been rebellion. There could not have been the taking and misusing of the authority. We find then that the plan of takeover does not begin in the people of nations. It begins in the fallen ones, in their conspiracy working in the souls of light of all nations. It is not simply a communist plot. It is the conspiracy of those who are anti-God, anti-life, and anti-soul. Where do we go then in the music of the future? This presents to us an immense challenge. It is a challenge to all of us to call forth the music of the spheres, to maintain our internal harmony, to accept the flow of the violet flame for the purification of these records. The sources which were tapped by the great composers of the centuries remain sources of vast expressions of music that can come forth.
Listeners, thank you very much. This is where this clip ends, and we would like to open the phone lines and see what you picked up on the area Okay, I should hit up something small. Okay. Just to kick our minds, we are looking or focusing our attention on what we can do under the circumstances relating to music and drug issues. And as I just posed the question, why is it now that we are talking about this? I want to kick off to say that if at a certain function, which is considered a function for high-level dignitaries, a certain form of music is played, and at other occasions it is different, then it means the organizers of these occasions know something. I leave that one there. The presentation talked about the music and things that happen from time to time in various periods of life or ages past, and it shows that even there was a point at which people who produce certain forms of music, that it was seen that they were not helpful to the society, they were even banished, or sacked from that society. That level of control was put in place. Let me pause here so that I can put it in tree before we.
Other for the asema yenua adjuster ebisa yedon. Ya debatu apawana ya boss siano. Na Reverend Sisu say ye bonyom ewo program bi ase ana se ebinumu organize program bi na enyuma a womu ebo ema nipa titirifuo no ensusu ye dem ewo enyuma a ye bebo ewo mu a enye nipa titirifuo program ase no na chese omu organize sa program no omu nimbibi na ebrebi duye ewo Greek fuo abrabomu a womu ehwese wobebo enyuma ebeboa timimufuo na enyumu bi wo ho unnim na wokobo ewo Greek memu a yetimi epamu wo krokrakra efri ekuro ni mu enyumu no nso no yebebanne enyumu no a ye ma obiara ema enyumu no emba out mu obi antie na wa na wa bo enyumu no nso no yetimi pamu efri oman ni mu.
And while all these are going on, the music that you are playing, we say in your body you have energy centers that are called chakras. The music forms, some of them end up forcing the energies in your chakras to be drained out, and it ends up in the form of insects. The only way you can protect yourself against this is how to learn to raise the energies of the chakras. That is the only way you cannot misuse this, and that is another spiritual exercise by its own right.
Therefore, say ye wo ahodi anase to me ebiabi ewo onipada se ni nipedua no mu a ye frɛ no chakras. Sa chakras ni mu na ya hoodi nyina ehihye na kyese enyu bi wo hodom a utia etimi etwi wahodin efa sa chakras mu na chakras no ebi ewo soro ebi so ewo fom dia okire ni se dia ewo fom no enyu bi wo ho a utia etimi twi ahodin no ekọ chakras na ewo fom no mu na sa ahodin no mu epie etimi ma dia ya kano se ewo twimo se etimi ma wadwaman esore eba ne sa kwan so no ahodin ni nyina no ye betwi efri onipedua no mu.
And if you want to do against that, then you have to learn how to raise the energies of the chakras, which is another whole exercise by itself.
So wo pese ubo humoden se sa susuaso no enya wo onipedua no so a ende e wo se wo sua kwan a wo fa so a ahodin na e wo de efra no lower chakras ne mo no be peja no abasoro.
Now, there are points where we have clean music, which is called the music of the spheres, where they can be drawn down. And unfortunately today, because most of our musicians, especially our youth, are not in that spiritual contact, instead of getting to that point where they will draw down the music of the spheres, they are taking in drugs and they are making all contact with all manner of levels that they are getting music. That is why they want some powers to get music, but they need to raise their spiritual energies to get music from the right source.
Therefore, osi enyum no ye wo enyum papa epeja odipada seni ehunhum a eno no ye frɛ no music of the spheres a eno efri osuro ahemem. Therefore, osi anka ya ye bonyum no yetimi epeja ye hunhum ekosoro na yenya enyum efri ehonum a ebeboa alasaman eyie nanso obehwe no yen namafo a yabaye yesi yepe se yeji ekoji edro anase yɛpɛ ye yɛbie yɛhuhum ani wase ne yɛbɛyɛ a yɛbɛtumi abɔ enyum na obia atobie enti deɛ bɛyɛ ne sɛ yɛde yɛnom enubɔne na yɛde ɛpɛ saa kwan no so sɛ yɛbɛwura huhum mu ɛbɛma yɛne ahohomfin ɛna nya nkitahodie na enyum a yɛbɔ no ɛfiri saa ahohomfin no ɛhɔ na yɛde epie.
I think we will pause it here for listeners to come on board. Yo, yentie atiefo adwen say ena me pese yen kwa e fa kasa no.
You say what TV Sunya the oh gospel ne there times some more use drugs no but I say gospel ne be you drugs be use drugs there to you no kana or any secret onum wia ne ne waba be to ne nyum no eno no hu say okura bi ana say bibi ba e na mafo ni de say the alcoholic no say glass mo was e kura no yes and afi e hu see die obon say no so kura no physical any dear keka ho minim de ntia so bi yes sa videos den things na aban chinepa ana so bi so tumim fa ho aban enchinepa no ba so be hu bi na sa wo ye de a and ye obecho nti yeah obetimi about 0240358182 0240358182 This is a new mahodwa yeti. Me who have been found this on swa. Danny Dio, I say, oh, youth na brabum. Oh, youth na brabum. 0240358182. If you pay for now, and I say, if you young Cassa, and I say, a generational of the Yapans, and it was say, you used to drugs no near the tunnel. Nti no mo jaya pe na my and so eti for me timi abem 0240358182 0240358182 0240358182 0240358182 Yafa we wahana hello.
Hello.
Yes, Odin the say na o kasa free.
Midini kweku.
Oh, mi take mo wa ha. You know what can do na ni biana ni.
No, not you. In the station. You come. You can change it.
Because idea quite down as a see who's a quiet down. Second of for money legalizing and I walk.
Yeah.
And I got to look about the Canada. Sitting for the Canada on the year tomorrow. And over.
I knew that I'm you.
You can sleep on the go on the year. And they are doing what they see her. And and I said sometimes we be that sound more. So you say play about or for six of the prison on so I don't good so I appreciate it. So
yeah, na kwa kasi kura no ko bo show bi na oye bi won e kwache no.
I mean you know ayo ten hu keke. You are getting a horn more who call Upa throw he bia kasa be your give you the whole gun or te. On class non can change young say who say we shiria to say you find cotton sound. No change young say who say get your man not to go me my yen to my day. And yet this year to come chance and yen to ma. I know you're moving to me. I say, we don't be a chance. You need no new to go on the DKK to the channel. We need no in a Juma. No could be about the now also watching now. I am question.
Ebia Rebecca say you protect you apomodin tia.
Who protect you? Who take the telephone? You take a second, I can't enter. No more protect you, my way. Okay, responsible. Protecting, going to be protecting. We are I'm telling you, you're black, you know. That dream of him. Men can say, be a quiet side, you know. But if I found who did the phone, say, what they say, that Roy America, really be, I said, it's no more say Black Lives Matter. And I'm a war. Yeah, you want to be more. And
you're busy, I come on coffin.
Yeah, you see, just something like that, now, person, you're being good deep. Because drug, we have to control drug. What I say, marriage cry control. Again, you cry control. Into the beer, you thought you only control and more. But which mean control, you thought, bro, we never for so beer a day. In film. And then maybe problem about Africa. What I say, but you be chair with us more, you be fair on chair, you say, woman, I say, we say, you're locking. Nice, you stay in a peer, but yeah, you wish you cry, you're near Juman. The date necessary, you can lock you. Yes, so you're the two of us. You see how ignorant that we are.
You're busy, Yanfa will be full from. Yeah, and then Pastor Bim Reef, as a Pastor Jimai. Pastor Jimai, me dinner, me perceive me. Yeah, Pastor Jimai said, Bible, when him baby, I said, Unu we a bonnet. I said, baby, anyhow. I just saw we are a bonnet, but Wapumudinti. Wapumudinti. Minya, they don't come a bomb among 40. Our 0240358182. You share a new tour, Nafi, a new tour to you, Magatonium Quay. Nay, then drugs and so I become drugs no. Revenue to Tunisia, and that's no education banner.
Sir, you see, there are those who, when you listen to the lecture, you see that the form of music that a person is pursuing ends up in demanding certain level of energy from the musician, and the person goes to look for that energy from those substances. That is where the music form becomes key in what we are talking about. So I want listeners, the question you submitted and what we played, I want listeners to tell us, is it that in Ghana or in the society, we don't know anything about the effect of music on the society? That is, I want us to have points on that. Is it that the society doesn't know the effect of music? Yes, I just want to make this submission from what the caller just said. You see, in all said and done, the key issue I pick from there is this: what provision have you made for the youth to get employed? so that they can take care of themselves. You have not provided those things, and you are talking about drugs. If the youth had gainful employment, they are most likely going to be occupied with that employment and will not go and take drugs to go and quote and unquote fool around. And he's also submitting that most likely, even if they were taking the drugs, even though he says he is not supporting taking drugs, but even if they were taking the drugs, they probably would have taken drug and gone to use it to work somewhere. So it's like the energy has been spent somewhere. So his point I pick here is, what job are you making available for the youth so that they can use that to keep away from the bad ways?
You Reverend HSA, dia ofreye no, the aba ofa every nadwin or chere ye no, and say, ejuma ben, ena yetimi aye esi ho ama ye mebruno, asana ye ka nuboni ho asem, esan se, sanka ejuma wo ho. Ai mebunu no eya eno ebetwi wo mo efri nemaboni nyina eho esan se ebeji o mo adwen ebetwi o mo adwen ebetwi o mo hodin empo se okonum eduboni mpo a odi eye eduma ofa enum enuboni enkoye nemaboni eno nso no ankanye ne se ye mebunu ni nyina epese o mo bonyum na enyum na omu nyina nso epese omu bono omu di edubonim de omu no se de ntia saa kwan no eba no ene se enyum na obono ehia ahodin bi se odi ahodin bi ehyem na esan se onya saa ahodin no se ne nti no ewo se onum edubonim no na eboa ansa na otimi anya saa ahodin no ashe enyum na obonemu.
Okay. 0240358182
Etefo asembisa no ene se. Asembisa no ene se. Aso Ghana hano yenim nsoso a enyum enya ewo onipa so ewo oman no so ewo nipadua no so ana ansana yede yaji bibia atomo yenim se enyum we eye enyum we enye enyum we ebeboa we emboa yenim ana.
Because na no bria be ya so fi de mo no be sa na to do mo mbo you ni say yi and I want be what be be sa and the boy said be na that be no wi na what is wi say to wi and that be no and no mo ta ma ka ho e ko ka ho
and omode shisha anso aka ho omode shisha anso aka ho
I don't know and you know be the one and you know she was not that no we no fashi the over drums the tie we ya no we ya put this some we na say no mo na wi ye but and then the phone mo ma be yes the phone mo be and the one money over that is most of the that kwa yebo and you know what you want to learn yes and no one in there so and so when ka mo no mo ka say you want to move for then feel on the what no never go bye bye
you say that was first no so no I'm too na the call say Gamro say Ghana music BBC ya empanyin fo hwe nwum na ansa na babonten pasisi ya nipa bebre na ya studio no wo mu fie ni ade onya to ya no dia to internet no the streaming no no dia fa ho no by radio so pa de ebe ye den
Ajasta
yemfa we e wa ha say hello udin say na o ka safari
Ajasta
oh DJ Amingo yeah jodo okay
those are here for the new wajiba what can you ma you will be the way ha can be America you know jump and the region what that is it they go show you this banu bibibanya yeah also the man called Mama to some na kakriya real money zabanu no go about no one from gra no last 2 weeks we can get African and Britain no see what on tisi ala go to let's know why is she share mama yaso yiri yaso she share why am I na what you are go hospital ho they are if you have the fee no man or I didn't we man mpamocho she on
Amingo yeda wase also wait me for 0240358182 0240358182 far for be me sapena yeko na Reverend Eba go say chimo adwene say on those old songs na ye boy friend saying edu yi ase ayebo na mafoni mobile nti dada na ye yi abepem ne nti eden na ye current musicians no mo so dey judge man hello oh sorry wait my friend nti eden ye so ye dey judge o ye beto obi mu di o I know na ye so e on because we a musician na I don't know abrante bi ba me ho se o de nyum ba se me promote man na ye those love song kete uba ukoto odonyo ede na onim fa odo ho okoto luma mo atu ewie o odonyo mo luma mo atu ewie amachi de demo ato ni all those people no omo nto onyum no mfa fa ako abrabo mu die we die akwentu mu nsem we oh nti utu na uti omo abon na wo fa track wana nyansa and so I say oh sisuna onya girlfriend bi anu akura studios no okotunyu na mani girl no
Ajasta
give me this also
Ajasta utie apawana ye boy no a whole civilization be ahwiase any enyuma omu esachira ye anase enyuma ye APA womu ememu enyum na APA ye na enyum no enye nsem no nko na ye ka no beat no eka ho bi what you say enyum no both words no any beat no any senior ya hihye nyum no eka ho bi na saa nyum no ehya ase se ye bo ewo man mu no o man na hwa ase eno no o man no ehwa ase o man no eboye entina asembisa ne se aso Ghana ha impanyimfo ye nim se enyum ewo nsosoaso ɛwɔ tememefo so ana yenim sɛ enyum ɛwɔ nsosoaso ɛwɔ ɔman nakasa ɛso ana yenim sɛ enyum no ɛbɛbrɛ ɔman no ɛhuhum ase ɛbɛbrɛ tememefo adwen ase ɛbɛma yabɔ fam ana.
Yeah, I just, you see, all that we're talking about, it ends up in national values.
Yes.
National values. Is our value the dancing and shaking of bottles by force? Is that our value? That every song you see now, either the person is almost stripped naked, or whether they have even packed their bottles. Now they have artificial whatever they call it, that they can put either their breasts or their bottles big and then go shaking. Is that our value? So I think that the subject matter of our national values comes in this arena. If a certain music form is producing certain kind of dancing, we should be able to tell whether the music form and the dance accompanying it are going to be helpful to the society or not. The fact that somebody's funeral there's classical music and there's another person's funeral there is a Ayefinoche, it means somebody knows something. How do we enforce? What is our music industry leaders supposed to be doing? I don't know. So I can only put it, what are they supposed to be doing? Are they just giving a banderole or whatever it is to license or copyright the things, or they are also monitoring the effect of the music being produced on our society?
Now drugs no ebeba because it's an say yama kwan ewo yama kwan say enyum bi epie yama kwan say omo ebo enyum types bi ewo man mu enti so far as enyum no yama kwan na ye ebo no sa niema no na hia say edi be pia sa enyum na chi enti ebetwe aba akwai say wo de mango abefie then ebetwe aba ebetwe wan sna aba enti wo ma saa nyum no kwan a ebetwe saa niema no aba enti wo mpese wo society no ebesei wo mpese youth no ebekọ drugs mu wo mpese wo madwen ebekọ sex adwamasem eso a enyum bi ewo honum a ensese wo makwan ma epie oman no mu anase enya ginaye ewo man no mu.
You see, so the clip is saying that the person who is making the laws of the country is not as important as the person who is producing the music. So long as you have control over what music is to be produced, you have control over the society. As for the laws, you create the laws, no problem. But the person who has control over the music, he is champion over the person creating the laws.
Chese, Papa Chese, deɛ ɔwɔ tumi ɛwɔ enyuma yɛbɔ ɛwɔ ɔman ne mu no saa nipa no ɛwɔ tumi ɛkyɛn deɛ ɔhyɛ mmara ɛwɔ ɔman ne mu ɛsan sɛ ɔhyɛ mmara sɛ ɛwɔ sɛ nipa ɛyɛ sei ɛwɔ sɛ nipa ɛyɛ sei ɛwɔ sɛ nipa ɛyɛ sei nanso obi wɔ hɔnom a ɔde enyum no ɛsɛe nipa no timemufoɔ no ɛnti timemufoɔ no ntimi ndi mmara no so. Enti mmara na wo hye mmara no kwa enti de o hye mmara no ni hu enhia ti say de o control music. Thank you. Yehu say nipa na odi owo etumi ewo anyum no so no ni hu enhia nanso apawa no e kire wo say de o control ewo anyum so ewo man ne mu no ni hu hia chen dia
Yeah. Right. Thank you very much. So the point in the presentation today is to tell us that we need leadership to take charge over the monitoring or the regulation of the kind of music forms we are allowing into our society, because they inadvertently end up shaping the society. We should take good look at our national values so that whatever we are doing, especially in the direction of music forms, will not be spiraling us down. Societies have existed before where they even banished people who were producing music forms that were seen as detrimental to the society. So we need to take a good look at what music forms we are allowing in the society. And as the first caller said, if we don't find jobs, meaningful jobs for our youth, they will find whatever job they want to get. And unfortunately, we are even giving some forms of legalization or licensing of production of this weed and so forth. Or say there's no job, there must be money in their pocket, so they should go and grow weed. That even worsens our case. So please, listeners, we thank you very much for your listening. At the end of it all, it is putting all our thoughts together and monitoring and changing our music forms and regulating our society morally. That is what will be very key in our onward march. Thank you all very much. My number is 020 812 5078. 020 812 5078. Church Universal and Triumphant. Our location is at Adenta SDA Junction near Mamidokunu School. God willing, next week we will meet again to continue our discussions. Thank you very much.